Hello. So in this video, I'll be covering these chapter 3 slides. This chapter number refers to this textbook right here. The content of these slides is pretty much contained in chapter 3 of this textbook. My author, last name Malik, the 8th edition of this C++ programming book. And these slides cover how to do this assignment, Lab 3A, this Project 1, and of course, this thing named the Chapter 3 quiz. Okay, so one of the first things I go into in the slides are what the meaning of this pound include IO stream is. And if you come here and right click on the project name, this is the project name in Visual Studio. This is the solution name right here. Okay, so if you right click on the project name and you select properties and go to C++ here, under preprocessor options, there's an option called preprocess to file. And if you change that, the default option in Visual Studio is no. If you change this to yes and click apply and then OK, and you run this, you attempt to run this program, the program will fail and you'll see there's a link.exe error Microsoft. I'm actually not sure what MSB stands for. You can see I've got a keylogger type software here. Microsoft Build MSB 6006. So anywho, that error naturally occurs whenever you preprocess to a file. So let's right click again and see what we just did. Preprocess to a file. That suggests that I wrote something to a file. And this is called preprocessor. It has to do with the preprocessor business. Before the program executes, this executes, so to speak. Okay, open folder in File Explorer, and at some point in here, yeah, we'll see this source.i. So if you notice the type of this file as displayed in Windows Explorer is a preprocessed C/C++ source file, and it's 1500 kilobytes, 1.5 megabytes, 1.6 megabytes. And if we right click and we open with Notepad, maybe not Notepad++, because not everybody has that installed necessarily. We say just once here. You'll notice that this is quite a big file. There are lots of empty lines, but lots and lots and lots of code here. Okay. And this code is being brought in by this pound include statement. Maybe we do something like remove this int right here. We comment it out. You can see I use the keyboard shortcut Control/ to comment that out. You can set up keyboard shortcuts by going to Tools, Options, and then go to Keyboard. And if you show commands containing comment, toggle block comment, toggle line comment, comment selection is what I use, Control+/. Uncomment selection, I use Control/. A lot of students are curious about how to set up those shortcuts, and that's one way to do that. Let me show that again in a little bit more detail. If we go to comment, edit, uncomment, you can press the shortcut keys that you want to be used here and select use in the text editor. By that, this means this window pane right here. This is what I would call a window pane called the error list window pane. This is the output window pane. This is the solution explorer window pane. But in the text editor, you want to set that whenever your mouse or your cursor is active in this window pane, and you press a certain keyboard shortcut like Control-Shift-/ for this, or Control/. This is active. However, if you are over here and you press in the Solution Explorer window pane and you type Control-Shift/, it actually has a different function that evidently highlights all those files. Okay, I didn't go through that, how to set up that keyboard shortcut entirely, but you can probably figure it out. But I was talking about commenting out this int. So if we make a header file and its name is int.h, for instance, right now we see, if we attempt to pound include this, we see this error message, cannot open source file int.h. That's because this file is not located in the same directory as this solution file or the CPP file. I forget which it is. This is the CPP file. The solution file is .sln. You see it says the type is a Visual Studio solution. And when you double click this and you have Visual Studio installed on some computer, it will open up this piece of software. But yeah, it's kind of complicated what's going on. What are all these folders? We're not going to worry about that so much. But the source.cpp file, if I add a header file, and one way to do that is this approach I'm taking right here. And I can change this file extension from txt to h. If I add a header file called, so I just hit F2 to change the file name, int.h, Windows displays this message. We can ignore this in this case, and we double click this, and I can just type int here. And we can see in a little bit more detail how this pound include is working. And let me remove that setting that I had about preprocess to a file, because that generates that sort of error that doesn't allow the program to run. And now you can see this pound include int.h is no longer generating an error because I have this file called int.h in the same directory as source.cpp. If I were to move this, like cut this file and paste it here, and I run this again, it says there's no such file or directory, and that is because this double quote says, look right here in this directory, this file path, which is very long in this case. I gave my project an absurdly long name. Okay. But we look in this thing called a file path for this int.h. We could copy, let's see, let me navigate to where that header file is. Right here. We could copy that file path. You see, I just hit Control-C, and we could copy this entire thing, which is quite long in this case. So let me cut that. And let's see. So now I've copied this entire file path, and you can see that it is recognized. It is able to be found. And if we run this program and we add something like standard : cout, hello world. Then we see hello world. Okay, so that's this pound include int.h. The contents of int.h are just if I double click that, it's the letters int int. So it's similar to a copy paste operation, this pound include, and pound include IOStream. If we right click on this and go to document, it includes a bunch of low level, what I would regard as low level complicated code. It's only 70 lines of code, but if you look here, we have a pound include iStream and yvals core. If we right click, go to document, then we see yvals core is quite a long file. There are a lot of comments here, but there's also some code here. And okay, so let's not go down that rabbit hole too far. Now, there will be kind of an interesting error. In this case, int is followed by int in this case because I pound included int.h. So let me just comment this out and continue with the slides. Okay. You'll notice that I have this standard colon here. If we don't want to use standard, have to type standard colon before cout and end line, we can say using namespace standard. And there's quite a bit of stuff in the standard, in these standard namespaces. If we right click and we say go to definition, you'll see many matches of a standard namespace, many matches, 63 matches in fact. So in IOStream, this header file, there is a standard namespace, and if I double click on this, the window, I've got the when I need to dock this, so it hops that back down there. This underscore standard begin is a way of saying a namespace standard, and there's some stuff in this standard namespace in IOStream. Pardon the background noise. I'm near a fairly busy highway. There's a standard namespace in this file called iStream as well, this header file. You might be curious about why some of these header files, like this typeinfo.h, includes an H after it, and this IOStream does not include an H, indicating maybe a header file. This is C code generally. If a file ends in .h, if I understand correctly, I might be making a small misunderstanding with that. These IOStream files, a lack of a .h file type suggested it's a C++ file, C++ code. Okay, but if you don't want to type this standard colon, then you can just say using namespace standard. Many people say, and they're right, correct, that standard using namespace standard is a bad habit partly because these standard namespaces within all of these different files, it's bringing in quite a bunch of stuff, all these functions and classes and variables. This is a thing called a class. This is a variable. This symbol here means variable or field. This means a function, and that looks like a nice function, right? A clock function. This is this thing called a struct. Okay,